strings soften, creating space for the flute's airy, inquisitive melody. Light harvest dance in the background. Gently joins in, adding warmth and depth. The strings soften, creating space for the flute's airily inquisitive melody. Light harps dance in the breath.
Cultura Archives. Every story has its moments, the ones that make it to air and the ones that stay behind. But sometimes, what's left on the cutting room floor carries just as much meaning, just as much depth. In this special collection, we revisit voices, encounters, and reflections gathered across New Mexico, from chance meetings on quiet back trails to conversations rooted in history, faith, and tradition. These are the moments that didn't make the final cut, but never lost their significance. Ed Bodette helps keep that tradition alive, sharing in the preservation and operation of a train that is more than transportation. It is history in motion, connecting generations to the spirit of the land. Ed Bodette, Cumbres en Toltec Chama Train.
The locomotive 488 is the one that took us to Osier and back on the early train. We've just put the train away for the night. The housekeeping people will take care of it, and the engine itself is being turned over to the roundhouse. They'll now service it, replenish all the supplies, do the necessary lubrication, then get it prepared for the next run, which will be on Tuesday. It's a major process to service a steam locomotive. It's not like the diesels where you basically come to work in the morning, throw some switches, and it lights up just like it would a bus or a truck. For a steam locomotive, it's a living thing that has to be maintained day and night. Whenever it's an active locomotive, and that's what we do here. Probably one of the reasons that we're still running steam engines and nobody else is we're here to preserve this process so that people who didn't get a chance to see it back in the 30s and 40s and so forth can experience what it was like to railroad in the mountains back then. Our locomotives in this part of the country and on the Denver and Rio Grande Western were always traditionally run with coal as the fuel. Because of the enhanced fire danger we've experienced in recent years, we made a difficult decision to convert part of our locomotive fleet to burn oil, which is less risky in terms of setting wildfires. We have 2 of our locomotives converted. The remainder of our fleet will stay as coal burners, as historically accurate as we can, so that, again, we can maintain the traditions of mountain railroading as it was done by the Denver and Rio Grande Western a century ago. Running a place like this has to be an errand of love, because being where we are, this is not a prosperous part of the world where it's easy to drop visitors to fund it. We're here, the 2 states got together when this part of the Denver and Rio Grande Western was about to be abandoned and decided that because the economies of this part of the states were leaner than the rest, that an economic infusion in the form of a tourist railroad, a scenic railroad, might be a good thing to boost the economies of both southern Colorado and northern New Mexico. So they collectively put the money together, acquired the property at scrap value, and have run it as a joint operation, jointly owned by both states ever since. And here we are over half a century later, and we're still doing it. We're fulfilling the economic mission that the governors envisioned when they put the plan together. And we're also doing the other important part of our mission, which is to preserve a way of life that is long gone as well. There are very few places in the world where today you can go and walk into an area as big as this and see operations essentially taking place the way they were done in the golden age of steam a century ago. The locomotives that we're using, our primary locomotives, were built by the Baldwin Locomotive Company in 1925, so next year they'll be celebrating their 100th birthday. And we plan to celebrate a little bit with them. Other than that, many of the other pieces of equipment are even older than that. So as a result, you're getting to see something here that is not possible in very many places. The Cumbres and Toltec Scenic Railroad has been designated a National Historic Landmark because of this, and as a result, we maintain it to demonstrate to the public at large the railroading process. Well, I think one of the things that is unique about this place is that its ownership is not for profit. It's a quasi-government entity. It actually has formed a bi-state pact that was endorsed by Congress in order to allow this thing to exist. As a result, it's not a profit-making operation. It's here to provide economic justification to these communities and at the same time follow through with the preservation mission. We also have not only the railroad operation that you see by the actual railroaders who run the place, but we also have a volunteer organization that's a not-for-profit or nonprofit that runs in parallel with us and has about 2,000 members around the world. And they come up here each summer and put in their own time as volunteers and work to restore some of the rolling stock that you see here, this historic equipment, some of the buildings that you see here that date back into the 1880s, some of the other historic structures and facilities that are all part of operating a railroad and demonstrating how a railroad operated many, many years ago. So the combination of the Bi-State Pact, which is a quasi-government entity, and the nonprofit Friends organization, we're able to do something that nobody else is doing right now. I think another thing that makes this place special, there was a pretty long section of track from Antonito, Colorado, all the way to Durango. And the state wisely picked out the piece that is the most scenic. These 64 miles between Chama and Antonito offer some very dramatic views of the southern San Juan Mountains, which are particularly beautiful and represent quite a diverse geology as well as the animals and the plants and the trees and things. So people come to visit here, they get to experience, depending upon which end they start from. If they come from Chama, we begin our trip and have to climb to Cumbres Pass, which is over 2,000 feet higher than the village of Chama, and we do it in just 14 miles, which means it results in a very steep grade of about 4% or more in places. And that means it's one of the very steepest railroads operating anywhere in North America at this point. It climbs to Cumbres Pass in 14 miles, the highest point at a little over 10,000 feet. And then it proceeds the next 50 miles on a more leisurely routing to Antonito. And through it all, it climbs through several geological zones as well as biological zones as well. So a visitor here can experience the high desert coming out of Antonito and working its way through the various levels of the forest to the subalpine that you find up at Cumbres. You got a lot of variety when you come and ride the Cumbres and Toltec Scenic Railroad. Chama and Antonito are very small communities. Both of them, or each of them, is less than 1,000 population, and their economies are very small. Antonito has a little bit more activity as a year-round economy, and Chama is essentially a very seasonal economy tied to tourism. The railroad is the major factor in the economic health of the community. It does benefit from hunting seasons, snowmobiling seasons, and a few things like that, but the scale of those are very small compared to the operation of the railroad, where we bring many thousands of people into the area each summer and fall.
Along the back trails of Alcalde, where the Rio Grande winds through fertile valley land and time moves with the rhythm of the earth, life remains deeply connected to tradition. It was here, off a quiet trail, that we came across Jose Archuleta, riding horseback through the Española Valley just as generations before him have done. There was no plan, no staging, just a chance encounter that reflects the enduring spirit of northern New Mexico. In places like this, cultura isn't something you go looking for. It finds you.
We're out here on a ride today in the prairie range here. It's a real nice day today. It's about, I want to say 60 degrees.
Where are we at?
We're here in, I want to say the Oquewingue Pueblo area. We're a little bit away from Alcalde and La Vallita and down that way.
And what do you do on your horse?
Well, we rodeo from time to time and just ride.
How important are the acequias in this area?
They're really important. They help us keep our animals, like my horse here, real healthy and feed our daily animals, which some people use animals to feed themselves. And just, they help keep us our fields real hydrated, because it's gonna be a real dry one this year. Okay,
What's your name?
my name's Jose
Okay, what?
Archuleta.
In the high desert of southern New Mexico, where open skies stretch over rolling hills and historic grounds, the past feels close at hand. Near Lincoln and Fort Stanton, landscapes shaped by conflict and legend still carry the stories of the Old West. It is here that Oliver Horn reflects on the life and legacy of Billy the Kid, a figure whose story continues to echo through these historic places, where history and myth remain deeply intertwined.
Probably my first introduction to him was Young Guns,
Yeah.
watching that when I was a kid.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's when you started learning about Billy the Kid, and then you got involved in obviously these two historic sites, one here in Lincoln and one in Fort Stanton, and a lot of the history surrounding Billy the Kid, specifically here in Lincoln, is right here in this very town and in this very space that we're in, the courtroom. Talk about that.
Yeah, so we're in what is called the courthouse today, but it's actually originally the L.G. Murphy store. They were the town bosses, and they built this structure in 1873 as their store. And they had the contract to supply Fort Stanton. And Fort Stanton was the engine of this area's economy. All the livestock, all the cattle, and essentially all the agricultural goods that were produced in this area went to Fort Stanton. And so by the owners of this business, Emil Fritz initially and Lawrence Murphy, they were these two former post commanders who had won the contract to supply the fort, and they could set the prices for the entire community and essentially, dictate the entire economy. So they built this in 1873. This, was the commercial center of Lincoln. And in 1877, a rival faction formed under John Tunstall, who was this wealthy young Englishman. Alexander McSween, who was the town lawyer, and John Chisholm, who was the biggest cattle baron in the area. They formed a business down the street at the Tunstall store, and they attempted to break the monopoly of the LG Murphy store business. And where we're at right now, this is where Billy the Kid, who was a member of the Tunstall McSween faction, the regulators were essentially cowhands that had worked for Tunstall and Chisholm. That was the core of them. That included Billy the Kid. He was captured by Pat Garrett in early 1880, brought to Lincoln to be executed. And we're in this space right here in the courthouse where he was detained and imprisoned at the time. And he made his famous escape, killing a couple deputies in the process and leaving town.
Across northern New Mexico, narrow ribbons of water flow through fields and communities, sustaining life in an arid land. These are the acequias, centuries-old systems built on cooperation, tradition, and survival. Poet Alfredo Luján draws from this enduring practice, giving voice to the relationship between land, water, and people, where each current carries both history and identity. Alfredo Luján, Acequias.
The acequia don't shout. She whispers through tierra vieja, through roots of álamos and the cracked hands of viejitos who wake before the sun even stretches over the sangres. She carries more than water, carnal. She carries memoria. From Chimayo down to the ranchos tucked behind the dirt roads, nobody maps no more. She moves steady, firme, like a prayer sliding over smooth stones. The mayordomo walks the ditch with a shovel and a quiet authority, not for power, but for balance. Porque aquí, water ain't just water, it's covenant, it's community, it's a handshake older than the state line. Back in the day, before subdivisions and plastic fences, we cleaned her together. La limpia, kids running barefoot, tias with folded arms directing traffic, primos arguing about whose turn it was to pull the weeds, mud on our jeans, sun on our necks, laughter echoing off adobe walls. The acequia fed the chile, the corn, the calabacitas that hit the pan with that holy sound. She fed our stories too. Every trickle carried cuentos of abuelos who survived drought, survived conquest, survived forgetting. Because that's what New Mexico does, homie. We endure. We irrigate hope straight into dry ground. Now, the old ditches still run, even if quieter. Some lined with concrete, some still raw earth, like they always were. But if you lean close, you can hear it. The water, still speaking Spanish, older than textbooks, still reminding us that land ain't owned, it's borrowed. That community ain't the hashtag, it's labor. That heritage ain't nostalgia, it's responsibility. The acequia flows like we do, bent sometimes, slowed down, but never broken. Siempre adelante, always carrying life through the desert like it's sacred.
In New Mexico, faith is woven into the landscape, from small village churches to traditions carried across generations. At St. Therese, Father Vincent Chavez continues that legacy, grounded in a community shaped by devotion and history. In his story, the local and the global come together as a deeply personal journey of faith leads to an encounter with the Pope, reflecting the reach and the resonance of Catholicism in the Southwest. Father Vincent Chavez, St. Therese.
That the New Mexico government, the Spanish government here, had regarding the sovereign indigenous peoples were very, very different here under Spanish rule than under English or American or French. Our Puebloan peoples still have their ancient lands. And because they were here first, they have the best lands, they have the best agricultural lands. Their ancient religions were enmeshed with Roman Catholicism, and were just part of this rich tapestry of peoples and cultures. And again, culture, a religion is a cultural expression of spirituality in time and place. So food, costume, music, dance, it colors us as human beings in eternal creation. And so this land, rightly called La Tierra Encantada, the land of enchantment, is about, the Catholic Church here is about the multicultural peoples of the Venerable Archdiocese of Santa Fe. And so we live in a rich place. Chimayo and pilgrimage is very much part of it. Years ago, I met Pope John Paul II in 1985 as a seminarian in Belgium. And so we met him in his private apartment. We were instructed about how to greet Pope John Paul II. We extended our hand to his hand. We said our name, our baptismal name, our family surname, and then we said what diocese we were studying for. And so we're lined up. My classmates in the seminary are from Ohio, Hawaii, and when it was my turn, and I said, Your Holiness, I am Vincent Chavez, studying for the Archdiocese of Santa Fe. And he lit up and he responded, Santa Fe. So our elegant and ancient capital city here, named the Royal City of the Holy Faith of St. Francis of Assisi, Holy Faith, Santa Fe. We have a reputation even within universal church circles because the place name of our capital city and the name of our church archdiocese is the Holy Faith. So in church circles at the Vatican even, it's recognized, this far-flung, isolated part of the Spanish Empire, this far-flung, isolated part of the Catholic Church has this noble, holy, elegant name.
under the desert sky so wide. You dance like the wind with nothing to hide. The scent of sagebrush fills the air. Mi corazón beats 'cause you're there. Mi New Mexican amor, you're my star. You shine so bright wherever you are, from Santa Fe to Tarzan.